Is it possible to work in Japan without a university degree?
That is a great question.
With many people wanting to come and live or work in Japan, one of the most common and challenging roadblocks that needs to be addressed is how to get a visa. There is no one size fits all with visas in Japan. They are often considered case by case with a variety of factors being considered. And since information on Japanese visas sometimes changes, I wanted to bring in a professional visa lawyer to help us with this topic. Today we're going to avoid the obvious visas like the working holiday, which doesn't apply to every country, or visas that would apply to the spouse or child of a Japanese national, and try to focus on some of the main visas that will allow you to live and work in Japan. So without further ado, today I am sitting down with Miwa Kanesaki, who works as an immigration lawyer here in Japan and has agreed to share some of her expertise with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this video session. ノムさん、ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Before I dive into a specific of work visas in Japan, and by way of short introduction, I have been a gyosei shoshi for many years.
Okay.
That means that I'm a licensed legal professional that handles, among other things, immigration matters. Before starting, I would like to make a few general comments on the Japan visa system. First, there is a high degree of discretion involved. This makes it difficult to give definite answers about things like the length of visa. Second, as Nom-san mentioned, rules and regulations change sometimes. This is one of the reasons I recommend having consultation with immigration lawyers to have updated information and advice.
Thank you very much for your introduction. For everybody watching, I just want to state right at the beginning that this video is not sponsored. Miwa-san has actually been kind enough to volunteer her time to share this with us today. And for the most accurate legal answers, she's scripted her responses so she doesn't say anything that's a bit of a no-no. So you might peek at her reading every now and then. That is totally fine. Miwa-san, thank you very much for this. I'd like to jump right into the visa talk and ask about some of the basic visa types for working in Japan.
Right. First, there is a category of employment visa.
Okay.
This visa is for a person who will be employed in Japan. There are different types of visas with different requirements based on the type of work that the visa holder will do.
Okay.
A common type is called the Engineer Specialist in Humanities International Services Visa. Basically, this type of visa is for someone who has a certain level of educational background or some other kind of professional background or experience.
Okay.
And for the requirements, in addition to proof of academic and job career, other requirements include an employment contract, financial papers, company information, including financial papers, and statement why the company needs to hire the applicant.
Okay.
And the second category is the student visas.
Okay.
With this visa, a foreign student can work up to 28 hours a week after permission by the Immigration Bureau.
Gotcha. Okay.
The basic requirements are proof of acceptance at the school and proof of financial support. Usually, the university or school does the visa application process.
Okay, so with these student visas and the employment visas that you just talked about, usually these require some kind of sponsor then, right? Like the school or the company?
Oh, right. Yes, exactly.
Okay. So a question that I've gotten a few times is it possible to self-sponsor a visa?
Well, actually, no, except for business manager visa.
Okay, so the business manager visa is the one that we were talking about before. It actually sounds pretty interesting. Would you be able to share a bit about what the business manager visa is?
Yes, actually, business manager visa is fairly common. A business manager visa is for a person who wants to set up a business in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
The requirements include a business plan, an office lease, and a capital investment of 5 million yen.
Okay.
The required supporting documents vary depending on the type of business.
Okay. So I guess another good question would be restrictions on visas. Like I know, for example, most visas don't allow a non-Japanese national to vote. What other type of restrictions are on visas?
Oh, right. Yes. I think the most obvious restriction is that people with an employment visa have to notify the Immigration Bureau if they change jobs.
Okay.
And the new jobs has to be in the same category covered by the employment visa. In other words, within the scope of the visa.
Okay.
Also, you're not allowed to work for any employer or company other than the one that sponsored your visa.
Gotcha.
Or do a part-time job unless it is permitted by the Immigration Bureau.
Okay.
And as for the student visa, there is no need to notify the Immigration Bureau if they change jobs.
Okay.
However, the people with student visa should not work in places like nightclubs, pachinko parlors, and other places with the legal term known as amusement business.
Gotcha. Okay.
Also, I should mention that like Japanese, foreign nationals on any of these visas have to obey the laws.
Yeah.
That means they have to pay income taxes, resident taxes, and they have to enroll in and make payments for the national health insurance and the national pension systems.
Okay.
As for voting, except for very limited exceptions, foreign nationals cannot vote in Japan, regardless of their visa status.
Okay.
And for extension of work visas, I should say you need to stay more than half a year, and you shouldn't leave for more than 3 months at a time.
Okay.
However, this is not a hard and fast rule, and certain reasons for a long leave might be taken into consideration.
So, in that case, are some visas, like some working visas, better than others?
Right. That's an interesting question. Whether one visa is better than another really depends on the goal or the purpose of the person applying for the visa.
Okay.
For example, a business manager visa allows the holder to do various types of business. On the other hand, the person with an employment visa has to work in the same area as the work category on which visa is based. I should mention that one advantage of a business manager visa is that the holder of the visa only has to stay in Japan for several months each year.
Okay. So, a really, really common question. I think one of the big questions for anybody watching a video like this is it possible to work in Japan without a university degree?
That is a great question. It depends on the type of work and type of visa.
Okay.
So in general, university degree will help for getting an employment visa called Engineer Specialist in the Humanities International Services Visa. But sometimes college degree and 10 years working experience or 3 years working experience in international business will help too.
Okay.
The important point is whether what you studied and how you worked match the kind of work you will do in Japan.
Okay.
For a business manager visa, academic career will help, but degree is not required.
Gotcha. Okay. So, Now, since I've brought you in here and you have all of this experience, I wanted to ask kind of a question that I think hopefully would give you the opportunity to share some of your background and expertise. What would you say personally are the big benefits of hiring someone like yourself, like an immigration lawyer, specialist, etc.?
This is my favorite question.
Of course.
Oh, yes. Since the Immigration Bureau has a lot of discretion, and since the documentation and languages can be difficult, it is a great idea to have an immigration lawyer. We make sure your visa application meets all the legal requirements and make entire process go smoothly. For example, I make sure there is no miscommunication among the various people involved, such as guarantors, employers, and business partners, and having all people involved understand the process and documents. Gotcha. Basically, I think using an immigration lawyer is a kind of investment or a kind of insurance. We try hard to maximize the good point to persuade Immigration Bureau and minimize or explain any unclear points.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we will talk again soon.
I have wanted to make a video on Japanese visas for some time, but with everything being what it is, I wasn't willing to do so without the voice of a proper professional. So thank you so much to Miwa-san for joining us today. Obviously, not all of the finer details about the Japanese visa system are going to be found in a single YouTube video, but we've done what we can to give a broad strokes base of information that should hopefully serve as a starting point if you're researching visas to live and work here in Japan. I usually say if you have any questions to feel free to leave them in the comments below, but I don't have answers to your visa questions, so don't ask me visa questions, but do leave me something in the comments. I'm really glad that we were able to do this today. I hope the rest of your day is beautiful, and I will see you again real soon.